Thank you, Count Corla. Taoiseach, we all know Brexit is on the horizon. We don't know the scale of what we're facing yet, but that is no reason why we should take our eyes off domestic issues. And healthcare and health services is the biggest issue we're facing into as winter is coming. And already 6,386 people are on trolleys, and it's just September. 521 people are on trolleys right now in overcrowded hospital corridors. And as the Taoiseach knows, I represent Tipperary, and two of the hospitals serving the county, South Tipperary General Hospital and the Midwest Hospital, UHL, are often, or indeed nearly always, the most overcrowded in the state, despite the best efforts of all their staff and management. And the government seems to be no closer to getting to grips on the health spending either. Minister Harris, who isn't here today, has also been deliberately avoiding scrutiny in recent months. He had the de Butler report last February, I repeat, last February, but chose to release it over the summer in order to obviously bury it. Likewise, the HSE's capital plan spending was buried by releasing it towards the end of the summer, 9 months after the plan was in operation. Maybe the government thought that these reports would go unnoticed. Taoiseach, I believe it was cowardly behaviour by the government and by the minister and the department. The government claims that the HSE capital plan is not affected by the cost overrun of the National Children's Hospital is incredible. It's just all profiling. The first test of this will be if projects are going to be delivered on time. And I can tell you, Taoiseach, speaking to numerous HSE officials, they are actually laughing at this plan. There isn't a hope of the commitments, the milestones being met. Secondly, there are glaring omissions in this plan. Little mention of the very good National Maternity Strategy, which we collectively all support. And referring back to the most overcrowded hospital in Limerick, where is the 96-bed unit that was promised? That is absolutely, completely and utterly necessary, as the Minister saw with his own eyes over the summer. This hospital suffers with the worst overcrowding in the whole country. Figures from the Department of Health show that no other hospital spends as much on agency staff, 9 million in the first 7 months. The staff there are so stressed. The staff in the related hospitals in Neenah, Innis and St John's likewise. They have a lack of staff, a serious lack of staff. Also, they are clearly very, very upset across the country at the de facto recruitment ban that is in place on frontline staff as well as other staff. And we always hear from the HSE and from the Minister that this isn't a recruitment ban. It is, in effect, a recruitment ban. I can name off lists of people who can't get jobs in the HSE despite actually being recruited. They can't commence because of this de facto recruitment ban. What is this saying to the staff across the country and to all the patients that need their help? So, Taoiseach, today I'm asking you the following questions. When will this de facto recruitment ban that is affecting frontline staff and indeed other critical staff across the HSE and across our acute services in particular be lifted and dealt with? And secondly, when will he commit to dealing with the outstanding and incredible issues that have been left in the Midwest of Ireland, particularly in University Hospital Limerick, where there hasn't been a commitment in the capital plan to the much-needed 96-bed unit? Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy. I think going back to your earlier comments, I don't think there's any minister in the government who's subject to more scrutiny than Minister Harris. Whether it's in the media, whether it's taking questions in this chamber, or whether it's appearing before the committee, and I don't accept that at all. I also don't agree with your assertion that publishing a document during the summer recess is somehow an attempt to bury it. A lot of us do work during the summer recess, not just the government, but also members of the opposition there. And when it came to the HSE capital plan, which runs for 3 years, starting this year. I was there myself, and so was Minister Donoghue. And I guarantee you, when we try to hide something, you don't send the Taoiseach and the Minister of Finance alongside the Minister for Health. So I think that's yeah, but it's not just for this year. It's for 3 years. And what that HSE capital plan contains is the 250 projects that will go ahead over the next 3 years, and answers that bogus claim that the overrun of the Children's Hospital has somehow caused all other projects to be stopped or delayed. Yes, it does have an impact. It does require some projects to be reprofiled, but we have set out in black and white exactly what the 250 ones that are going ahead are. And it's important as well that people understand the impact that it does have. The National Children's Hospital this year will take up about 1.3% of the health budget and 0.4% of public spending in total. Listening to the commentary around it, people would be forgiven for thinking that 10% or 20% of all taxpayers' money this year is being spent on a single project. That is not the case. 0.4% of government spending this year is on that project. 1.27% of the HSE's budget is going on that project, and that leaves 98% for everything else, including the 250 projects who are in that plan. And you reference in particular the maternity strategy. That is in the plan. The tendering of Holles Street to move to Vincent's is there in the plan, and also the funding required to begin work on the transfer of St Munchin's to Dáil and Limerick, on Coombe to the James's site, and Connolly to Rotunda is provided in that plan.
Taoiseach, Deputy Kelly.
Taoiseach, you had 2 reports. They were buried. Everyone knows what happened here. One was 9 months late, and the other sat in a lonely room since February. The department didn't even have the class to change the date on the actual cover of the report. In relation to the Butler report, does the government intend to implement the recommendations of the report to remove private medicine out of public hospitals? Will you honour what Sláinte Care said, which I was part of the team that reported on? Will you commit to that here and now? Also, in relation to the capital plan, will you give a commitment to the people of the Midwest that the 96-bed unit that is required in the most overcrowded hospital in Ireland will be delivered? Otherwise, Taoiseach, will you commit in the interim that there will be some change in the pathways of how the emergency theatre operates in that area? Because we are in a crisis and we can't continue, and there's going to have to be different pathways in relation to Ennis, Nina and St John's. And finally, Taoiseach, will you tell us today, on this date in September, considering we've had a 9-month delay of 2 reports, when the winter plan will be published for the forthcoming winter season?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
Thanks, Deputy. To answer your questions, the winter plan will be published before the winter. In terms of wishing to bury a document, like here are the facts. 4 ministers, including the Taoiseach, the Minister of Finance and the Health Minister, went out to Dún Laoghaire, toured the wonderful new National Rehab Hospital that is now almost completed out in Dún Laoghaire, replacing those Victorian facilities. We were disappointed it didn't get more coverage. I absolutely guarantee you, Deputy. I absolutely guarantee you, Deputy. I don't take half a day out with 4 ministers when I want to bury something. I absolutely guarantee you.
Order for the Taoiseach.
And Count Corla, we were disappointed it didn't get more coverage. Why didn't it get more coverage? Because it's good news. It's the 250 healthcare capital projects that are actually going ahead over the course of the next 3 years. In relation to Deputy's other questions, the government accepts the Butler report. It is government policy to remove private practice from public hospitals, but having read the report, people will all understand the difficulties and costs in delivering it. It will cost 600 million a year, or 6 billion over 10 years, 3 times the cost of the Children's Hospital. It's already the case that private practice in public hospitals is going down. It's down to about 15% now, and having read the report, you'll understand the complications in delivering that, how much it will cost and how many years it will take to do it. Finally, in relation to Limerick, Limerick has a new emergency department delivered by this government, open and operating, has a new Labour wing delivered by this government, open and operating, has a new ward block under construction at the moment, which will be opened and will operate in the next 6 months. On the 96 block, I'll have to come back to you, but so much investment has gone into that hospital to date, and I know you'll want to compliment us on that.